Thanks everyone for coming. Our next talk for today is by Kuang-Yu Chang. Go ahead.
Thanks first, and thank you for giving me the chance to share this work with the group. Unfortunately, this won't be the presentation that I give in AGU next week, but if you are interested in how global bottom-up and top-down and machine learning models compare with global weather methane emissions, please visit the global methane cycle session next week. Hello, everyone. I'm Chang Kuang-Yu from Lawrence Berkeley Lab. Thank you for being here during this very busy time of the year. Today, I'd like to talk about how short-term favorable weather conditions may affect decadal water use efficiency trends inferred from eddy covariance measurements. So I believe we can all agree that plant photosynthesis is one of the most important processes for Earth's climate system, which converts CO2 into sugar for the ecosystem. During the conversion process, plant stomata act as a control valve over the fluxes of carbon dioxide into the leaf during photosynthesis and for the water vapor out of the leaf during transpiration. The trade-off between the amount of CO2 uptake and water loss for individual leaves can be quantified by intrinsic water use efficiency, which is the ratio of the photosynthetic rate to stomatal conductance at the leaf scale. When these water carbon exchange processes are scaled up from individual leaves to the ecosystem scale, those fluxes are contributed to the gross primary productivity GPP and the evapotranspiration ET terms modeled by terrestrial ecosystem models or observed by eddy covariance measurements. There are multiple water use efficiency metrics to quantify ecosystem scale water carbon interactions. For example, the inherent water use efficiency that take the ratio of GPP to ET times vapor pressure deficit. And then the underlying water use efficiency that takes the ratio of GPP to ET times the square root of VPD. Understanding factors driving changes in water use efficiency is important because even small changes in plant water use efficiency could have strong effects on global carbon and water cycles due to the large spatial distribution of terrestrial vegetation. A key question is how would water use efficiency respond to changes in environmental condition, especially the rapid change in atmospheric CO2 concentration after 1960, as shown in the solid line here. Take a look again at the water use efficiency functional form in your mind, whether it's at the leaf scale or at the ecosystem scale. Under elevated CO2 concentrations, the numerator, the photosynthesis or GPP, may become larger with CO2 fertilization effects, while the denominator becomes lower due to reduced stomatal conductance. A recent synthesis analyzing over 100 trees across the globe suggests that there's around 40% increase in intrinsic water use efficiency over the 20th century when atmospheric CO2 concentrations increased by about 34% during the same period. Their findings indicate that stomatal conductance may only reduce the presence with the presence of water stress. And they thus conclude that the increased the photosynthetic rates corresponding to the increased CO2 concentration is the primary driver of the observed increases in water use efficiency. Although the temporal change in water use efficiency are qualitatively consistent across sites, the large inter-site variability highlights the importance of spatial heterogeneity and local climate conditions. Here, the solid black line shows that intrinsic water use efficiency increased by about 27% since 1900, but there's a large inter-site variability across the 76 tree ring records as shown in individual gray lines. Similar results were found in ecosystem scale eddy covariance measurements that shows a strong increasing trend in the overall inherent water use efficiency, while the inter-site variability remained large across the 21 sites. Interestingly, the magnitude of the observed increase in water use efficiency is much larger at the ecosystem scale. Results inferred from tree ring records often show about 0.3% per year increase in leaf scale water use efficiency, while those from eddy covariance measurements show about 2% per year increase in ecosystem scale water use efficiency. And such discrepancies have major implications for terrestrial ecosystem model development because the leaf scale measurements suggest a constant CI to CA ratio for plant physiology, while the ecosystem scale measurements suggest, because of the much larger increasing trend in water use efficiency, the ecosystem scale measurements suggest constant CI due to the stomatal closure to support that large increases in measured water use efficiency. So if we don't understand factors contributing to such discrepancies, we won't be able to improve the surface model, since our model development is heavily dependent on continuous hourly data taken by eddy covariance measurements. Importantly, the discrepancies between water use efficiency trends inferred from tree ring chronology and eddy covariance measurements are unlikely driven by the high spatial heterogeneity presented in real-world data sampling. Here on the left-hand side, water use efficiency from tree ring chronology and eddy covariance measurements were compared at a North American temperate forest, which again show that trends in eddy covariance scale, ecosystem scale water use efficiency, which are the yellow bars here, is about an order of magnitude larger than those inferred from tree ring record, which is the green box plot. And it's challenging to compare leaf and ecosystem scale measurements in general, because each water use efficiency metrics may vary with variation in plant functional types, while different water use efficiency metrics quantify different aspects of plant water carbon interactions. As shown on the figure on the right-hand side, Madeline et al. Compared water use efficiency inferred from leaf gas exchange, leaf isotope, and eddy covariance measurements. And water use efficiency estimate may differ substantially among PFTs for a single set of water use efficiency metrics. For example, the blue box plots can vary substantially across different plant functional types, or water use efficiency may differ substantially among leaf to ecosystem scale measurements for a single set of PFT. For example, the various range of water use efficiency alone among the green, red, and blue box plots in the evergreen middle leaf forest. And these rather scattered water use efficiency ranges suggest that water use efficiency and its trends are sensitive to the measurement technique and spatial scale, which is likely controlled by the most important factors considered by different approaches. So in this study, we revisit ecosystem scale water use efficiency calculation and investigate factors controlling emerging water use efficiency values and trends inferred from eddy covariance measurements. We select 40 sites with more than 10 years of continuous measurements from the FluxNet 2015 dataset, which includes 6 plant functional types across 560 site years. Only daytime data that are not within 1 day of precipitation events are included to reduce the effects of ground and canopy evaporation on the measured evapotranspiration. We calculate both the inherent and underlying water use efficiency with hourly eddy covariance measurements, but I'll only show the underlying water use efficiency results for today's presentation. We use 2 approaches to estimate seasonal water use efficiency. In the first approach, we calculate hourly water use efficiency based on the GPP, ET, and VPT inferred from hourly measurements and then take the median of the hourly water use efficiency distribution within the site year to represent seasonal water use efficiency, denoted as the UWUE median term here. And in the second approach, we calculate the seasonal GPP, ET, and VPD first, and then take their ratio to represent the seasonal water use efficiency, denoted as the UWUE aggregate here, which is the method commonly used in water use efficiency studies. We can estimate the uncertainty associated with temporal resolution by comparing seasonal water use efficiency inferred from these two approaches. That is, how would the strength of water use efficiency change when the same set of GPP, ET, and VPD measurements is fed into the same underlying water use efficiency functional form at different temporal scales. And the results are surprisingly similar. The R-squared values between underlying water use efficiency inferred from the two metrics are above 0.5 for the exam plane functional types. The numbers in the brackets are the number of site years in each plane functional type. So in addition to the underlying water use efficiency values, its decadal trend and interannual variability are also comparable between the two measures. And these results suggest that seasonal water use efficiency values, trends, or interannual variability are not very sensitive to temporal resolution of the input data. And we can use the distribution of hourly water use efficiency to evaluate how short-term ecosystem responses may modulate emerging water use efficiency trends. We also examined the effects of data sampling bias and sensitivity to our growing season definition. And we found consistent results when we only include summertime measurements. And consistent results were also found when using inherent water use efficiency. And all these sensitivity results suggest that the median of the hourly water use efficiency distribution across a site year can be used to represent seasonal water use efficiency. And there's one advantage of using hourly measures of water use efficiency to quantify multi-year trends. And that is, we get a chance to investigate whether the recent changes in ecosystem scale water use efficiency are primarily led by uniform and mild, rather mild water use efficiency change relative to the baseline shift, or by sporadic and intense water use efficiency extremes related to changes in short-term favorable water-carbon interactions. And to investigate how emerging water use efficiency trends may be affected by shifts in extreme events, we need a metric to properly identify favorable weather conditions and then quantify the temporal variation in favorable weather conditions. To do that, we apply the most active hour framework to identify the number of hours that are most relevant to seasonal water use efficiency. So MAH is defined as the number of hours above the percentile of the exam metric over the entire measurement record at a given site, which can be GPP, ET, or water use efficiency in our analysis. Here's an example using GPP, which shows that correlations between active hour and annual GPP generally increase when active hour is defined by higher GPP percentiles up to a maximum around 85th to 95th percentile before the correlation goes down again. When defining the 91st percentile GPP as the threshold and calculate MAH as the number of hours when hourly GPP exceeds its 91st percentile. MAH largely explain the interannual variability in annual GPP as shown in the bottom figure. The strong correlation between MAH and interannual variability in GPP and ET suggests that seasonal and annual water and carbon fluxes are largely depends on hourly measurements that cover less than 20% of the measurement period during short-term favorable weather conditions. And analyzing the relationship between MAH and water use efficiency would thus provide quantitative estimate on whether the relatively large water use efficiency trends inferred from eddy covariance measurements are driven by long-term baseline shifts associated with ecophysiological transitions or by changes in short-term favorable weather conditions. We apply this MAH framework and calculate the correlation between water use efficiency trends and active hours defined at individual underlying water use efficiency percentiles, and found that the correlation between water use efficiency and active hour trends generally increase with when active hour is defined by higher underlying water use efficiency percentiles. And the solid green line in the shaded area represent the mean and standard deviation of the correlation between active hour and underlying water use efficiency trends among the 40 FluxNet sites. The overall highest correlation is found when active hour is defined as the number of hour when underlying water use efficiency is above its 78th percentile, as shown in the green dash line. We thus define MH for each site year as the number of hours when hourly underlying water use efficiency exceeds its 78th percentile of the underlying water use efficiency inferred for all years at a given site. We note that the site-specific MAH threshold may be lower or higher than the 78th percentile, as shown in the gray solid lines, and I'll discuss the sensitivity of inter-site variability later. And consistent results were found with inherent water use efficiency, but I won't go to details here. Anyway, so we calculate the MAH, and we also calculate the number of hours when underlying water use efficiency is between its 40th to 60th percentiles, denoted as baseline, and calculate the MAH and baseline correlation with underlying water use efficiency trends inferred from individual sites. And our results indicate that MAH trends have stronger predictability on decadal water use efficiency trends than those in baseline active hours, suggesting that emerging water use efficiency trends are more sensitive to short-term favorable weather conditions than to baseline climate. And importantly, trends in seasonal GPP, ET, VPD, and CO2 concentrations do not individually explain the decadal water use efficiency trends inferred from the 40 sites. And their correlation with water use efficiency trends are generally lower than those from MAH trends. And the wide correlation range for these variables may explain why studies using data from different set of sites consider different factors control site-specific water use efficiency trends. Implementing site or ecosystem-specific water use efficiency thresholds for MAH calculation, as shown in the green violin plots, does not necessarily improve the MAH predictability on decadal water use efficiency trends, as shown in the pink violin plot on the left, supporting our use of a fixed water use efficiency percentile to quantify MAH. And consistent results were found with interior water use efficiency, as well as using summer-only measurements. So when compared with Earth system model simulations, the median water use efficiency trends observed from the 40 sites is about 0.4 to 0.6% per year, which is comparable to the median trends inferred from CIMIC 6 simulations, although the model site-to-site variability is substantially weaker than the observed. And interestingly, if the 40 sites are grouped into sites with positive or negative MAH trends, the observed underlying water use efficiency trends become much stronger for sites that showing positive MH trends and weaker for sites showing negative MH trends. Therefore, MH effects on water use efficiency trend may explain the unexpectedly large water use efficiency trends inferred from AD covariance measurements when sites with positive MH trends are overwhelmingly selected in data analysis. And CMIC6 models do not represent such divergent ecosystem responses to positive and negative MH trends, probably because of scale mismatch and incomplete process representation. To understand why ecosystem responses to short-term favorable weather conditions determine seasonal water use efficiency, we build random forest models to examine factors regulating hourly water use efficiency, including intersite variability, friction velocity, downwelling shortwave radiation, the energy balance, energy closure imbalance, vapor pressure deficit, soil water content, CO2 concentration, soil and air temperature, as well as ecosystem type. And our random forest model predictor importance analysis show large intersite variability in hourly water use efficiency inferred from the 40 sites, demonstrating that the ecosystem scale water carbon interaction are site-specific properties that depends on factors other than mean climate conditions. Although the interpretation of AD covariance measurements is often limited by its energy closure problem, energy closure imbalance is not the dominant factor controlling water use efficiency in our study. And this rather large variable importance for intersite variability is remains whether you only include data during or outside the MH hours. And all these results suggest that we need to have a site-specific analysis to understand what controls MAH. So we build a site-specific random forest models across the 40 sites to evaluate factors regulating water carbon interactions. Here on the left-hand side, bars and error bars represent the mean and standard deviation of the estimated predictor importance across the 40 sites. As you can see, after filtering out the large intersite variability, downwelling shortwave radiation becomes the most important variable modulating hourly water use efficiency across the 40 sites, and is also identified as the most important variable for most of the sites. And the strong shortwave radiation effects on ecosystem scale water use efficiency may be analog to the finding that recent increases in water use efficiency are primarily driven by increases in the photosynthetic rates. And consistent results were found with measurements collected during most active hours, which is from the 78 to 99 water use efficiency percentiles, which again suggests that the relatively small amount of data during MH hours contribute the most to the overall emerging water use efficiency patterns. On the other hand, though water use efficiency values outside MAH are sensitive to variations to multiple eco-physiological factors, such as VPD, energy balance, energy closure imbalance, and shortwave radiation, instead of being driven by a single dominant controller across the 40 sites. And because the ecosystem scale water use efficiency is sensitive to short-term favorable weather conditions, water use efficiency values and trends inferred from AD covariance measurements cannot be directly compared with those inferred from the scale measurements. And we should also recognize this during model benchmarking. And I have to wrap up. So we found that effects of short-term water carbon interaction should be recognized in interpreting the water use efficiency trends inferred from eddy covariance measurements because it's strong correlation to decadal water use efficiency trends. And CMIC6 models cannot represent such divergent ecosystem responses yet. And I think this is a science version of the blind man and the elephant. Both the leaf scale and ecosystem scale measurements are reliable and valuable, but we have to understand what contribute to the emergent signal. So with that, I'll be happy to take any questions.